This is going to be a tutorial for 10 different clock methods that are all popular and can be competed with if you want to have a slight advantage in your region or just want to get good at clock. Unfortunately, I will not be doing a specific scramble. I will just be hand scrambling it. Go through that again. Center to right, these two to here, then your D move to match them to the top, right side, and then you can have all of them and point them all to where your 12 is. It doesn't really matter what your pin order is so long as you only have like one D move. That would be most efficient. Then you can do any flip you want. And then you can do the same order for pins. And you would have your cross again, but you don't need to point it to the top. You can just have your cross. And then you start making these L shapes and you start pointing your cross to the corners next to the down pin. So this pin here is down. Then you would point the cross to this pin like that. And then you would repeat for all the corners. Again, something like top left, top right, bottom left would work. But so long as it's not super different every time, it would just be better if you did the same thing every time because it's easier to build up muscle memory. Solve the cross on one side, point it to 12. Then you would solve the cross on the other side, and then start with these L shapes for each of the corners. The next method is called optimized Pacman. It requires one letter of memorization, or number, and it shouldn't be too hard. It's more commonly used. I think there was a video where you can get like sub 7 at clock with this method, and you don't even need to practice. So how you do it is, I would recommend finding a place where two edges are really close to each other. You can see that these are just one apart. And then what you would do is you would see what the middle has to do to get to the top. This would be a -1. So when you flip like this, you would remember -1, and then you would flip it. So it would be +1. So you can see that when we do -1 on this side, -1, these two match. But if we do that same -1, it's a +1 on this side. So you would need to flip whatever this is. So for example, that's not a good example. Here, it would be +3. So you would do -3, and it would match this. Optimized Pacman makes it so you only have one D move in the entire solve. So let's go back to here. -1, +1, and you would start with these two pins at the bottom being up. So you would do that letter that you memorized with either your left or right hand, depending on if you want to do this or this, like for moves. So you would do 1, and then with this hand, I do it like this, you would match the center to the top. Because now you'll see that when you flip, you will not have that D move. So now that you've done your memorized and this move, you would continue basically like normal flip, where you would match this block to here or to here and then to the bottom eventually. Then you would have your cross, you would match it to 12, and then you would flip like this specifically, because if you don't, then you'll have this case, or if you did a diagonal flip for some reason, it would be on the side. You would flip like this, and your D moves are gone. Then it would be the same thing, and then you would have corners like normal, and that's optimized Pacman. This is 10 move memoless. It's a bit more complicated than the other two, but I use it whenever I can't memorize fast enough and I know I have like an edge skip or a corner skip. These two skips are the best skips that work for basically any of these methods, you always want to be looking for this, or you want to look for this, and then you would put it where it would need to be. I'll show you how to use this for 10 moves, and then I'll show you how to use this for 10 moves. So let's start with this. Here, how you do 10 moves mentalist is you would make this 2x2 block any way you want. So here, for example, you could use this style with this pin up to match these two to this one. Why my lights are being weird. You match these two to this one, like that. And then with this hand, you would match the corner to this one. Then you would move over to here for your 2x2 block. Then it doesn't matter, just do the same thing every time. You would match the 2x2 either to here and then here, or you would match it to here and then here. I'll match it to here first, so like that. And then you would have these two up, and then like that. Then you would flip like this, and you would do the same thing on this side. So you would make the 2x2 block. Again, I'll show you how to use the corner skip later. And then you would have your 2x2. Now here's where it changes. You would match the 2x2 block specifically to the right edge, and with this hand, you would match this corner down here specifically to this edge, like that. Then, top two pins, and you would match all of these solved pieces to these two. Then what would happen normally is we got a skip here, but it would look something like this probably, and you would have to make this L shape with this pin down here down, and you would match this corner to this corner, like that. Then you would have two diagonal pins up like this. It's called a slash. And you would match everything to 12, and then it would be solved. So now I'll show you how to take advantage of the corner skip. How you can take advantage of the corner skip is you would put it in this position with the bottom right pin up. You would turn the center to match either of these two, because they're the same. And then you would use this hand to make your 2x2 block. And then the rest is normal. And you would flip. I sometimes do it like this, where I make this L shape, and then I have this up, and then I do the D move, but got lucky, and then got really lucky with all of them already pointing to 12. Next up, we have a less competitively used method called 10ND. Hang on, I need to read this. 10NDMW2LM, which I think it stands for 10 no D moves with 2-letter memorization. I think that's what it stands for. So this one, as it has in the name, has 2 letters that you need to memorize. We have a lucky skip here and a lucky skip here. But for this method specifically, we're looking for these skips because these are not helpful unless they're positioned correctly. So the memorization for the first letter is U to C. So this clock up here to this clock, which is 0. Then you would flip like this. And then what this clock needs to do to get to here, which is -3. So 0, -3. Then you would have it in this pin position. We would do our first letter that we memorized up here, which is 0, so we skipped it. We would have the L pin position, these two up, and we would match D to R, so like that. These two would be matching. Then we would match the middle to these two by putting this one down and this one up, so like that. And then we would have our L shape. Then it would be right side, and we would make this L shape up here with like these two. So it would look like this and like this. Then when you flip, you'll notice that these are solved. And if they're not solved, then that means you did your first letter of memorization incorrectly. Now you would have this pin up, and you would make the 2x2 up here, a lot of 2x2s. Then it would be this pin position, and you would match this 2x2. Oh no, you would match this clock to this clock, so like that. Then it would be like this, and you would match the 2x2 to these two, and you would match this corner down here to these two. So now we have this big zigzag of 2x2 blocks. Then we would do our second number here, which would be -3, which would match this L shape that we had at the start to here. So -3, whoops, hang on, I changed it. But yeah, it was like this. And then we would switch to this pin position, and it would be like that one step in 10 Moves Memoless where you match this corner to this corner. So it would look like this, and you would just match these two. Then our favorite is slash, and we would match everything to 12, and your clock is solved. Okay, this method is Lou. It was the most popular no-flip method, I think maybe 2015. I don't really know. I wasn't like in the cubing community when Lou was dominating clock. And I'm not very good at it, so if it's not solved at the end, I apologize, but the memorization should be the same. So the first letter, this has 5 letters of memorization. There's an easier no-flip method, which I'll get to, but we're gonna start with this one. It has 5, so the first letter, remember this clock to this clock, which is 4, add that to this clock to this clock, so 4 plus 2 would be 6. And then down here, you look at where this would end up after you add 6 to it. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would get us to 4. So our first number is 4. Then it would be here to here. So it's -4. Here to here, -5. Here to here, -1. And then here to here, C. So let me just remember that real quick. Okay, then you would flip like this. You would do, oh no, hang on. You would do 4 here, and you would match this to this. Then you would have this pin position. You would match this to L. And then your second number, third number, fourth number, and then your fifth number. And you would match, sorry, I couldn't explain it because I was trying to remember, but you would this to this, and then these two to here, this to here, all of this to here, and then after you do your fifth, you would match your cross to here, and then you would do whichever pin order for corners makes sense. And it was wrong. But in theory, that should work. Now we have an easier clock method, in my opinion, called 4 halves. How it starts is we would start with this, so that would be 2, this to this, -3, 3, C. So I would memorize that as 2C, 3C. Then you would come to the back. You would do your first number here, 2, and you would match this to this. 3, is your second number. Wait, 2C, sorry, should be 2C, because that would match that to that, 2C, and then your third would be here, C, so that would be your fourth, and then you can see that it solved the clock for us. One thing I forgot to mention is that when you do this and you finish, your cross is obviously misaligned. So what you would do is you would add those up, flip the number, and then add that to whatever the middle clock was. I'll show you that right now. Okay, thankfully we have a skip, so it's not that hard. So let me just run through this real quick. 0, 2, 1, C, or -3. So you would do 0 plus 1 0 plus 2 plus 1 would be 3, minus 3 would be 0. Then you add 0 to here and see where it ends up. So it'd be at 3. Another way you can do this is you could trace it where you go in the opposite direction of whatever number the number is telling you to do. So 0, and then it would be 2. So instead of going 2, you would go -2. So it would be -2, and then this would be 1, so you would go -1, and then this would be -3, so you would go +3. And wherever it ends up, that's your final number. 0, 2, 1, -3, 3. Then it would be the same here. So 0 on the bottom, 2, 1, -3, and then 3. It would be 3. Sorry. And then you would go through corners like normal. This is, I think, the most basic no-flip method possible. It literally took the basic beginner's method and made it no-flip. Okay, now we're getting into the more difficult territory of clock called 7 simul, not 7. It basically makes it so that the clock, since the clock can be solved in a maximum of 14 moves every time, 7 simul makes sure that its pin order and solution is as efficient for turning as possible, and it makes sure that you can do 14 turns at the same time, 7 simultaneous moves. So this is Bpaul's 7 simul flip. And its memo, it has 6-letter memo, and it goes like this. This clock to this clock would be 3, and then you would add that to this. So 3 plus 5, 8, -4. So D, -2, 0. Or I would memorize that as DB0. Then you would do that exact same pattern, but starting on this side. So it'd be -1 plus 5. So it'd be 4, 1, E. DB0, 4, 1, E. You would do first here, second here. Then you would do your third up here while matching this to this. And now you would make this 2 by 2 down here. Then you would flip, make the same L shape. I forgot the memorization. DB0, DBE. I think it was DBE. Then you would do the 4th and 5th, and then 6th, 2 by 2, and then you would have your slash and it would be solved, but I forgot the memorization. Let me go try that again. Okay, I've just tried again. So it's 2, 0, 5, 1, E, 1. And then I got the skip. So yeah, it works. I just forgot my memorization. Again, the skips that you're looking for are this skip, because that skips your 2nd or 5th number, and or this skip, because that skips your 3rd or 6th number. If you got both of these, this L shape, then that would be great. You could hold it in the top left here or in the top left here. That's it for Bpaul's 7 simul flip. Okay, this memorization is kind of long, so I'm going to go through it slow, and then I'm going to go through it faster. This is Tommy 7 simul flip version 2. It's very similar to the no flip version for 2 of its letters and 1 of its pin orders. We'll get into that later. So this method starts off with this to here, so that's -1. And then you would flip like this, U to L, -5. So 6, because -1 minus 5 is -6, but doing -6 or 6 is the same thing. It's the same thing. So 6, then here to here, which is 6, plus here to here, So we got 66, that's easy to memorize. Then, still on the back, U to C, so that'd be D. So 66, D, and then here's the hard part. You would go U to UR, so -4. Add that to this clock, so that would go -4 backwards. That would be -3. Then you would see what this needs to do to get to here. So that's +3. You would add +3 to this clock, so that would end up here. You would see what this clock needs, I'll bring it closer. You would see what this clock needs to do to get to where this clock ended up, which is 4. Then you would add 4 to this clock, so 2. 66, D2. And now, C to U, which is -2. No, not U, Siri. Add that to D. So it would go -2, and then it's here, so +2. Plus here to here, which is 0, so we're still at 2. And then plus this, which is -2. So we got 66, D2, 0. Now, let me just double check. Okay. So your first number would be here, 6, and you would match C to D. Then you would make the 2 by 2 on the bottom. Then you would do your second and third. 66, D, and then you would flip like this, and then you would do fourth and fifth. 66, D2, 0. Now, you would have, oh, I think I did something wrong. Left 2 by 3. Yeah, this was not solved, so I did something wrong. But that's how you would do it. So this would be solved. Then you would match here to here and the 2 by 2 to here. Then you would have this pin position. You would match like this entire block to this and this to this. So it would look like that, basically. And then you would match everything to there, but I messed up. Let me go see if I can get a successful attempt. A5, A5, C, A5C, 3, zero. No, let's try. A, 5, C, 3, 0. Okay, that time I got it right. So you saw that the 2 by 2 was solved, and then I made this entire block over here, then I made this goofy little W shape, and then I solved everything, which is very similar to how the no flip method works near the end. Okay, now this is the method that I use right now. I might switch to the final one, which it's probably the best method in this video, but this currently has the world record single of 1.53 from, I hope I pronounce this right, Lackland Gibson. And I think it's pretty good. It works. Its memorization is fast, so I just use it. So it starts off like this. You're doing Y2 flips this whole time, like this, kind of. You would find 2 edges that are pretty close to each other, maybe a skip like this. You would U to C, which is -2. Here to here, which is 3, add that to this. So 3 plus 6, 9, C. So B, C, and then you would go from this edge to this edge. So 0. B, C, 0. And then it's very similar. Here to here, -3. Plus here to here, which is also -3. So 6, C, C. Now the final one is optional, but I'll show you why I prefer it. So BC0, 6CC. Okay. First, second, then you would third, and you would match that to that. then you would make the 2 by 2. Fourth, fifth, wait, C, and then you would this to this. And here's why the 6th is optional. You would, if you didn't memorize the 6th, you would just match this corner to this corner. But if you did memorize the 6th, you would just do 6 here and it does it for you. Then you would make this so it would look something like this normally, and you would do that. Then you would just make the slash and you would solve. So let me do that again, but faster. So here's what a faster memorization would look like. 0, ODC, oh sorry, that's not in frame. ODC, C1D, ODC, C1D. So 0, D, C, C1, D, and then solve. It took me maybe a month to get sub 7 with this method, so I would use it to get started. But if you really want to get world class and you like crunching numbers, I guess, I would use the next method. Okay, I purposefully gave myself no skips on this scramble. I had like this entire skip, which skips 2 numbers. But since I want to fully show off this method, which is Tommy 7 simul no flip. Yes, you heard that. That is the most common method, I guess, and the most pro method as of right now. So you want to first look for 3 edges that are decently close to each other. These 2 here don't matter as much. It's more the relation between these 2 and these 2, because those are 2 of our numbers. So our first number is going to be this to here, which is 3. Then you would add this to here, -2, to these 2. So that would be 3, -2 minus 4, 6. So 36. Then your third number, this to this, which is 4. And I think this one is the optional one. No, the one I just did is optional. You don't need to do this one because I'll show you why. So, but we'll just memorize it. 36, 4, and then this to this, 3. 36, 43. Now, this is where if you used Tommy Flip V2, that one memorization, well, those 2 actually, can both be used here. For your 5th, you can either use one of 2. So you can use the one where you cycle through them, or you can use this one and then flip the number at the end. So I'll show you what those both look like. So this would be -1, that would go here, 6, 6, and then 4, sorry, the light, 4, and then add 4 to here, that'd be -2. So 36, 43, -2, or 6, add that to here, that'd be 2, and then 4 minus 2, 2, and then you would flip it, so it'd still be -2. Both work. I think that depending on which one you practice more, it'll be faster, obviously, but I don't really know if one is faster than the other. I know that the cycle one is more commonly used. So 36, 43, B, sorry, I'm repeating that so much, I have to remember it myself. And then you would just do this one, but on the back. Interesting point, you can do the cycle one and then flip the number at the end, kind of like for the 5th, but I don't do that. So -1, -4, 6, 0. 6 plus 6, 12, 0. So it'd be 36, 43, B, 0. So you would do first and second, 36. This is where you don't really need to memorize the 4, because you can just match these 2 on your own. But I memorize the 4 because it's just faster for me to just do the turns. And then you do your, well, 3rd, 4th on these 2, 3rd, 4th. And then you would make the 2 by 2 block. 5th, 6th, so B, 0. Then you would make the 2 by 3. You would make the W shape, and then you would do that. I'll show you the pin order again because I've realized I haven't really been showing pin order. For bpol, it was L shape, then right, like this. And then for Tommy, it would be and there are some extra mentions that I would like to dish out. So the first extra mention is pseudo 7 simul, where you would there's a specific way that the clock pin can be set up so that you can skip 2 numbers, and then it would be instead of 7 pin positions. So for example, bpol would have 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It would be like skipping the first position entirely. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it makes it so that happens depending on how the clocks are arranged. And there's another very similar one, pseudo 6 simul, where it basically does the same. It's the same thing, but I think more efficient. Maybe pseudo 7 simul is more efficient 7 simul, and then pseudo 6 simul is the 6 simultaneous moves. Another one that I didn't mention, another no-flip method that I didn't mention is Sheeran. I cannot figure this method out because I think I'm just very inconsistent with it, but I can try showing it off right now. Just know that it is not okay, this is Sheeran. So you would start with, let's see, let's look for some skips. Oh, we have one right here. Let's keep it there. So let's just get the pins out of the way. You would first start with L to C, so it's 0, and then this clock, wherever it is, minus whatever this number was. So if it was like this, 1, 6 minus 1 would be 5, and that's your first number. So 0, 5. And then you would go here to here, which is 0, add that to these two. So 0 plus 3, so we would have 53, or 5, 3, because the numbers are split up, I'll show you. 53, here to here, so negative 3, C. This to this, negative 4, and then finally this to this, 0. 53, CD, 53 CD 0. My Siri keeps activating. Okay, 53 CD 0. Then you would flip like this. It'd be a Y2. And here's how you would start. So first, hang on. Let me just double check. Okay. You would do first number here, so 5. Then you would go to here. You would match this to that. And you would do that. And now you're in your L shape. You would finish your cross. And you would do your second number, 53. Then C, and you would match the cross to that. D, cross to that. 0. And then you would go like normal. Oh, I got it. Let's go. But yeah, that's Sheeran. I thought I'd make a P shape for the outro. But this is a very brief tutorial for every single clock method, at least that I know of, and is used like pretty competitively. I will be making separate videos for each of these, but that go more in depth, and I will probably do some more example solves and actual solves with them.